Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Sienna gets a glimpse of her husband's real identity as Sharon grabs Mitch and makes a lethal threat. Billy is waiting for Sally in the jazz lounge. She's ready for a stiff drink after her difficult conversation with Audra. He's distracted by the chaos in the Kane camp and fills her in on the stolen AI. He suspects Ashby is getting a dose of his own medicine. Sally can appreciate how much he must enjoy that, but it worries her when his focus drifts to revenge. Billy reassures her that he is focused on the success of Abbott Communications. Sally doesn't regret telling him that Jill is behind the funding. It's important for both of them that they have full transparency. Pushing that even further, Billy reveals that he has stopped drinking and started exercising. He is committed to proving that her faith in him is not in vain and that he can be a man she believes in. They smooch. Sally Billy. Nick interrogates Sienna. Spotting Sienna and his son kissing in his hospital room, Nick walks in on them. No sooner have their lips parted, he leads her to the waiting room. Sienna Noah. Nick grills Sienna about what has been happening between her and Noah. Assuming this is connected to the crash, he reminds her that he brought this up before, and she lied to him about it. As she tells him to back off, he leaps to the assumption that Matt must have attacked his son over the affair. She points out that the crash occurred while her husband was out of town. Besides, he's in the dark about the affair. Nick is confident that her husband is Matt Clark, a vicious man who has targeted his loved ones for years. As he unpacks their grim history, Sienna says Nick seems really committed to this bit. The Newman repeats that it's all true and guesses she knows nothing about her husband's past or has ever met any of his family. Remaining cagey, she backs him off and repeats that Mitch knows nothing about the affair. Sharon threatens Mitch. Sharon is in Mitch's face at the shadow room. She won't relent on calling him Matt and warns that, of all the terrible things he has done, coming back from the dead to target her children was really crossing the line. He continues to insist he has no idea who Matt is, so she accuses him of gaslighting her and being a sadist. She would remove his eyes from their sockets if they weren't standing in a public area. Mitch makes the observation that she and Nick have been harassing him. She grabs his arm when he declares that he is done with this. After he threatens to get a restraining order, she warns him that if he goes near her family again, he had better hope Nick finishes him off because she will take her time making sure that he suffers. Sharon makes distraught calls. Sharon returns to her hotel room and immediately calls Phyllis. She leaves an awkward message thanking her for all of her texts about Noah. She appreciates the support, but as soon as she starts talking about her emotions, they well up and she has to end the call. She calls Nick next, admitting that she went to confront Matt while pacing and leaving another rambling message. She's sure that he won't leave their son alone and wonders if they should call the police about him. Noah rejects his father's suspicions. Back at the hospital, Nick returns to Noah's room and asks him to explain what's happening with Sienna. Noah acknowledges being afraid of his father's judgment. He already feels bad enough for cheating on Allie. His relationship with Sienna just happened, and he doesn't even know if it's serious. Nick asks how much he knows about her husband. Noah recounts meeting him in London and the support he lent to help him start a club in LA. Mitch seemed like a decent guy to him. As Nick tries to make his son promise to stay away from the Bacalls, Sharon shows up. Nick announces that he caught their son kissing Sienna. Noah senses from their expressions that this is about a lot more than him having an affair. At Sharon's urging, Nick explains to their son that Mitch is really Matt Clark, a vicious man from their past who terrorized them for years. They believe he's back to start again and is behind Noah's crash. Immediately refusing to accept this, Noah orders them out of his room. Sienna threatens to go to the police. Sienna goes to the shadow room and corners her husband at the bar. He says that he doesn't have the time to deal with this right now as she demands that he tell the truth. Pulling out her phone, she shows him a picture of Matt Clark from 20 years ago and demands he tell her the truth. He continues trying to end this discussion, but she follows him across the room, asking if he is using Noah as a tool to get revenge on the Newmans. Mitch continues asking her to drop this and finally snaps when she won't relent. After she threatens to go to the cops, his face contorts, and he warns that would be a really big mistake. Sharon, Sharon, and more Sharon. Do you have to always be your own worst enemy? Even as young and restless fans shout at their screens in the vague hope she might somehow hear and reverse course, the poor thing is making one bad move after another where the seemingly resurrected Matt is concerned. This week, she threatened him repeatedly, even grabbing his arm in an aggressive fashion. She's made sure that anyone and everyone who crosses her path in Los Angeles knows exactly what Matt did to her, Nick and their family over the years. Heck, she's even talked to Phyllis, of all people, about the mess that's unfolding far from home. Anybody else think those messages she left for the redhead and, later, for Nick, are gonna come back to haunt her, big time? All of which makes me think that this is heading toward the blonde bombshell once again being up to her neck in trouble. Because unless I miss my mark, Mitch/Matt is going to wind up deader than a doornail before long, or at least so everyone will believe. We, the constant viewers, will likely be left wondering whether rumors of his demise are greatly exaggerated. There are more than a few ways this could play out, and the ultimate path taken could depend on exactly what motivates Matt. Assuming he caused Noah's accident not because the young man was having an affair with his wife but rather to lure Nick and Sharon to Los Angeles, the question then becomes why. My theory. Matt is dying, perhaps of a behavior-altering brain tumor. While his life in Los Angeles has clearly been a pretty good one, he's long resented the way things went down with Nick and Sharon all those years ago. What better way to get revenge than by making it appear that Sharon's public attacks eventually took a fatal turn? Soap villains have been framing heroines for their murders, real or supposed, since first the words "tune in tomorrow" were uttered by breathless radio announcers. Sure, this twist would be coming directly on the heels of a long story in which Sharon was framed for the Heathers murder. But even that wasn't the first time she's been falsely accused of killing someone. Remember when Adam's ex-wife, Sky, fell into a volcano and Sharon wound up being convicted of her murder? Yet here we are once more. Poor Sharon apparently has never learned that those who forget the sins of the past are doomed to repeat them. In my mind, the only real question is whether Matt really dies, at the hand of someone other than Sharon, or simply fakes his demise. He's got past experience, after all, having apparently been playing possum for decades while living it up as Mitch Bacall. Which way the storyline goes might well depend on exactly how long Roger Howarth is slated to remain on Young and Restless. A short-term stint would certainly explain why the show hired such a high-profile actor only to have him step into the shoes of a character who, given his past, would seem to have a short shelf life. If my theory, or theories, as the case may be, prove true, things should pick up rapidly. After all, we can't have the Newman clan hanging out in Los Angeles forever, right? At some point, they're gonna need to head back to Genoa City. Perhaps once Sharon stands accused, Michael and Lauren will join them out in California so he can defend the accused. It's either that or call upon the legal skills of bold and beautiful's rarely seen Jack Finnegan. The lights of Los Angeles glimmered against the slick streets as the storm clouds rolled in, but inside the shadow room, tension was brewing hotter than the jazz simmering from the corner stage. The night would bring every buried secret, every festering fear, and every dangerous truth to the surface. Sienna Bacall's world was about to implode. She had spent weeks defending her husband Mitch, the charming and mysterious man who swept her away into a world of luxury, but tonight, she was about to glimpse the monster behind the mask. It all began when Sharon stormed into the shadow room, her fury boiling over. The moment she locked eyes on Mitch across the bar, her pulse thundered in her ears. Matt Clark. The name alone was poison. Her past with him was a graveyard of trauma, lies, and terror, and now, seeing him alive again, smirking in the flesh as if he hadn't destroyed her life, lit a rage inside her that she couldn't contain. Mitch tried to maintain his calm veneer, insisting she was mistaken, that he wasn't Matt Clark, but Sharon's trembling voice cut through the smoky air like a blade. "Don't play games with me," she hissed, grabbing his arm so tightly the glass in his hand rattled. "You come near my son again, and I swear, I'll make sure your last breath burns." The other patrons turned in their seats, pretending not to listen but too intrigued to look away. Mitch's easygoing charm faltered as Sharon's tone dropped to something lethal, low, and trembling with truth. "If Nick doesn't finish you off," she warned, "I will." Meanwhile, Sienna's mind was spinning. She had heard the whispers, Nick's wild accusations, Sharon's emotional breakdowns, but she had dismissed them all as paranoia. Yet the more her husband dodged her questions, the more the pieces stopped fitting together. Later that night, after Mitch stormed out of the shadow room, Sienna found herself pacing outside, drenched from the rain, clutching a photo on her phone, a picture of Matt Clark from 20 years ago. The resemblance was undeniable. The jawline. The eyes. The coldness in his smirk. When she finally confronted him at home, her voice trembled between fear and fury. "Tell me who you are," she demanded, shoving the phone in his face. Mitch's calm demeanor fractured for a split second before he collected himself. "Drop this," he said tightly, his tone suddenly sharp. "You don't know what you're getting into." But Sienna wouldn't drop it, not now, not after realizing that everything in her marriage might be a lie. Across town, Billy Abbott sat in the dim glow of the jazz lounge, absently swirling his drink as Sally Spectra slipped into the seat across from him. She was tired, her fiery red hair framing eyes that carried the weight of a difficult conversation with Audra. "I need something strong," she sighed, flagging the bartender. Billy half-smiled but couldn't hide the tension in his own gaze. "You look like you've had a day," she noted. He shrugged. "The Kane camp's a mess. Their AI's been stolen. Word is, Ashby's finally getting a taste of his own medicine." Sally raised a brow, sensing the undercurrent in his tone. "You sound like you're enjoying that a little too much," she teased. But Billy's smirk faded. "Revenge doesn't pay," he admitted, his voice more thoughtful than usual. "I'm done with that. I'm focused on Abbott Communications now." Sally nodded, touched by his sincerity. When she confessed that Jill was behind the funding, Billy didn't flinch. "Good," he said simply. "We need transparency between us. No secrets." He told her he'd quit drinking, started exercising, and wanted to prove that her faith in him wasn't misplaced. For the first time in a long while, Sally believed him. Their kiss, soft, lingering, and full of cautious hope, was a promise of redemption, at least for now. But back at the hospital, Nick Newman was unraveling. He had walked into his son's room just in time to see Noah and Sienna locked in a kiss. The sight froze him cold. The betrayal wasn't just about infidelity, it was about danger. "Out," he ordered, his tone sharper than glass. He led Sienna into the waiting room, his fury barely contained. "You lied to me," he snapped. "You said nothing was going on. You said the crash was just an accident." Sienna stiffened, trying to hold her ground. "It's not what you think." But Nick wasn't having it. "I know who your husband is," he hissed. "Matt Clark. The same Matt Clark who's been tormenting my family for decades." Sienna's breath hitched. "That's insane. Mitch doesn't even know who that is." But Nick pressed harder. "You don't know him, do you? You've never met his family, never heard about his past. Because he doesn't have one. He's been hiding from it." His voice rose, and a few nurses glanced over. Sienna lowered her voice, trying to calm him. "You're wrong, Nick. He doesn't know about Noah and me. He wasn't even in town when the crash happened." But Nick's eyes said he wasn't convinced. Hours later, Sharon was alone in her hotel room, her emotions spilling into the darkness. She had left Mitch seething at the shadow room, but the adrenaline hadn't faded. Hands trembling, she called Phyllis. "I just wanted to thank you," she said into the voicemail, her voice cracking. "For checking in about Noah. It means a lot." But as soon as she began to talk about what happened, tears choked her. She hung up and dialed Nick next. "I went to see him," she admitted. "Matt. Mitch. Whatever he's calling himself. She paced, her voice rising. He's dangerous, Nick. He's not going to stop. Maybe we need to go to the police before he hurts someone else. Her breathing was uneven, fear creeping through her every syllable. But even as she spoke, somewhere deep down, Sharon wondered if she had already gone too far. Had she provoked a killer? At the hospital, Nick returned to Noah's bedside, trying to regain control. "Tell me what's going on," he demanded. Noah sighed, exhausted. "I messed up, Dad. I cheated on Allie. I hate myself for it. But Sienna's been kind. She's not who you think she is." Nick leaned in, voice low. "How much do you really know about her husband?" Noah rubbed his temples. "I met him in London. He helped me open my club in LA. He's been nothing but supportive. He's not some monster." Before Nick could respond, Sharon arrived, pale and shaking. "He is a monster," she interrupted. "Mitch Bacall is Matt Clark." Noah stared at his parents like they'd lost their minds. "You can't be serious," he said, his voice tight. "You think Sienna's husband faked his death 20 years ago just to come after you again?" But Sharon's voice cracked with certainty. "Yes. That's exactly what I think. And I think he's the reason you're lying in that hospital bed." Noah's expression darkened. "You're wrong. Both of you. Leave." The heartbreak in his voice was undeniable. As they left, Sharon turned back, whispering, "Please be careful. He's not who you think he is." Later that night, Sienna stormed into the shadow room again, where Mitch was nursing a drink at the bar. Her face was pale but determined. "We need to talk," she said sharply. "Not now," he muttered, eyes glued to his glass. "Yes, now." She slid her phone across the counter, showing him the picture of Matt Clark. "Who is this?" she demanded. He glanced at it briefly, feigned confusion, and handed it back. "Some guy from the past?" But Sienna pressed on. "Don't lie to me. You look exactly like him. You've been hiding something from me since the day we met. Did you use me to get to the Newmans? Did you cause Noah's crash?" Her voice broke, but her stare was steel. "Tell me the truth, Mitch." He turned to her slowly, his eyes darkening. "You have no idea what you're talking about," he said, but the tremor in his tone betrayed him. When she refused to back down, he snapped, his voice suddenly sharp, his jaw tightening. "You're making a big mistake, Sienna." She pulled out her phone again. "Then I'll let the cops figure it out." That's when his entire expression changed. His eyes went cold, his smile vanished, and in a voice low enough to make her blood run cold, he said, "You do that, and it'll be the last mistake you ever make." The words hung between them like a death sentence. And across town, Sharon was unraveling further. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop replaying every moment with Mitch, every time he denied being Matt, every smirk, every flicker of familiarity. Her calls to Phyllis and Nick went unanswered, leaving her alone with her spiraling fear. She stared at the city lights through tear-blurred eyes, whispering, "What if he's right here, watching us again?" When her phone buzzed, she snatched it up, only to see an unknown number. A chill ran down her spine as she listened to the silence on the other end. Then came a single word, low and haunting, "Soon." By morning, everything had changed. The whispers around town had spread, Sharon's confrontation with Mitch had gone viral thanks to a bystander's video. Public opinion was turning against her. People said she'd harassed an innocent man. But those who knew Sharon best, Nick, Phyllis, even Mariah, could see the fear in her eyes and knew something far darker was brewing. Because if Mitch really was Matt Clark, then his plan was only beginning. Back at the Abbott table, Billy and Sally sat close, oblivious to the storm gathering elsewhere. For the first time in months, they felt like partners in both business and life. "To new beginnings," Billy toasted softly. Sally smiled. "And to second chances." But as their glasses clinked, neither noticed the news alert flashing silently on Billy's phone, a headline about a confrontation at the shadow room that ended with threats, accusations, And the words Matt Clark trending once again.